this might be a good time for play development. Not that everybody isn't developing plays right now, but there is like this aggressive need to get something on stage so that people can come and buy tickets. And I wish we didn't have such an urgency for that. I wish we really could focus on um just developing the work. And because I feel like there are countries who are like, we can't deal with the US for 4 years, so let's just lay in wait and see what happens. And I feel like if we could do that, where we're just like, we're just not going to be, I mean, we just can't be as ambitious right now with all this uncertainty.
And I want to let me go in a slightly different direction with that thought. In I read this, as you do, blogs all the time, right? In England, almost every day there are 2 to 3 reviews of new plays and musicals. Every day. In the United States, we have this. The Tony Awards are coming. We're going to bunch up a bunch of things in 2 months and see a bunch of, but we hear nothing about the new plays in Arkansas,
Yeah.
or up in Massachusetts. And we're a much bigger country. This is the stuff we should be supporting. We should say, Philadelphia, how many new plays can you do in a week? Every week. Right? And let's figure out which ones are the quote unquote hits.
Mhm.
But one or the other, why aren't we supporting all this new writing? If anything, instead of taking money away, we should be saying, we're throwing more money at it. Do more. There's so many good writers out there. And now I'm going to call it stuck writing television, because on streaming, there's more opportunity to be seen.
Mm.
Instead, we should be going, we have all these smaller theaters. Let's give every new play a month. Right? I mean, certainly has to be developed first. I'm not saying the first draft. Right? But television doesn't use the first draft either.
Mm-hmm.
That people come in, they rewrite somebody else's work, and then it goes back and they develop it for a year. So we'll do the same thing in theater. But the money has got to come in. And certainly in theater, we don't need the same kind of money television does.
Mm-hmm.
So where is this? Why are they taking money away? Again, if they said we're taking $1 billion away from NPR and PBS, but we're giving it to all the smaller theaters across the United States, then we can have a discussion.
We're going to feed it into the NEA.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the NEA, let's be clear, they don't support a lot of
they don't
this
support
stuff.
everyone.
They tend to support this already successful nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
They give them a little more because they've proven themselves already. And my thing is, no, we've got a lot of talented people. I hate to bring this up. A college professor I know found an old musical that he thought parts of it were phenomenal, but it had gone by the wayside, and the composer was like in his 90s, so he wasn't going to make it. So he wanted to rewrite the book and give the guy a chance to see his music done.
Hmm.
And then he called me up and said, where do I do this? I even have some money saved. I'm going to put it in, but where can it be done? And I went, I don't know. You don't live in New York. Where are you going to do it? And how much are you willing to spend? And is it enough for you to find the talented people in your area to put this up? And are you going to orchestrate it? And are you going to, or is it just a piano? It's such a difficult art form.
Yeah.
Right? And it needs funding. And we're going the opposite direction. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
I brought it back to the old topic.
It's fine. Well, it's hard to escape it. And I'm sure that all the art that's being produced right now is being influenced by it as well. All the art that people are dreaming up is being influenced by it now. And it's like this is a moment. I don't know if we can call the pandemic an era, but it does feel like this is another era. It's going to be this moment where there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of questions, and then that was poured into art to find answers. And, it'll be interesting to see what comes out on the other side. It's just, I think it's more of a realization that, uh, I had been saying before that there aren't many new books for the arts on this side of the pandemic. And so
Mhm.
perhaps it's time to write one, somebody. Yeah, maybe it's me. I don't know. But the
Yeah.
conversation, like, because we can't, some of that stuff is still working, but it's not as effective as it was before. Like, here in Philly, we don't value the paper of note as we did before, you know? And so we're thinking about other ways to get our message across,
Mhm.
and we're embracing those things. They work for us, but are they really reaching? We don't know. We just know that, like, this seems to be effective. Let's see what happens.
Well, and let's also talk about this younger generation. We know that the internet is seems to be everywhere.
Hmm.
Of course, there are parts of this world that don't get it, which is still
Yeah,
is
yeah.
shocking to me. Shouldn't that be a federal supported thing? Everyone in the United States, you cannot survive here without access to that.
There
That's
was there
how
was a
you
conversation about it becoming a utility,
yeah. It's
and
how
they've
we
been
get
pushing
our
it.
it's how we get our information. So now even in the theater, yes, for actually longer than a decade, the internet, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc., have has been a source of branding Broadway, off Broadway shows, nonprofit theaters
Mm,
with limited success. However, the new generation that is going to follow, I wonder if that amount of success will change, whether it's
mm.
going to be more important. What do you think?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, we're still at this point where we're like, what? How do we get their attention? And if we're already doing something they're interested in, why are they not here?
Mm,
And so that's a thing. And maybe they are here. It's just like I said, for me, sometimes, like, I'm like, I know that I'm gonna go out and see the show, but I'm not planning in advance, and so that's not helpful to the to the company. The company doesn't know I'm coming unless I've already secured tickets, and I think there's a lot of people who are like, there is a mindset of the younger generation to say, I want options. Hey, it's Friday. I'll send a text to a bunch of friends and say, hey, who's up to hang out? Let's go do something. And then everybody has ideas, and they might just pick the idea that they like the most, and cut off, like, everybody who wasn't a part of that idea. But it's just like, I'm trying to find a reason to go out after work. I'm trying to find a reason to leave my house once I got there on a Friday night,
right.
you know? And so I think a lot of people are in that mindset because they're not, like, they're younger. And so they're open to every opportunity that's coming their way. Like, they might be surprised. Like, I thought I was going to settle in and have a movie with my roommates, but then my friend called and said, "Hey, there's this new place and there's a line already queuing. Like, we should go check it out." And they're like, "I got to be there." It's like, we got to go see what's what. And so they end up going, and their friends who were going to watch that movie with them are just like, bye, like, see ya. And I think we're in the mindset of, like, seizing the moment and basically trying to bank as much experience as possible. And I think we're not,
Mm,
like I've been saying in the community, like, we're not at that point where there was so much out there that we felt like it was a privilege to try to consume as much of it as we could. There was a time where it felt like we were always just going to things because it was just readily available. But now, you know, I don't. I mean, it feels like the prices are kind of the same. Like we're industry. There's always industry rates, and so they've always existed, or you've always had a connection and all that. But there's still something that's changed here, you
Yeah.
know, where people just like, I'm tired. I don't want to keep running to all these things. Like, remember how odd it felt for us to go to an opening night that didn't have a reception. It was
Mm.
like it just doesn't feel the same. Like we're not even celebrating them like we do normally. Like, I mean, they might have like a safer sort of private thing, but it's like that's the whole point of coming to opening night. You get to sort of schmooze with everybody who put
Well,
it together, and
and interestingly enough, that started to change a long time ago when there were so many critics because the internet
yeah,
was sending people who had no background in
hmm
critique, but they were influencers. So
yeah,
they were invited. And what they found is instead of having one opening night and then everyone rushed to write their reviews and we all got very exciting, and
hmm
it's great to have been part of that generation. Then all of a sudden we had four
yeah,
pre- press nights so
hmm
that the press could say, you know what, Friday I have something with my family. I'm going to come Wednesday afternoon.
hmm
And that meant you had to freeze your show. Freezing your show meant that we'll make no more changes. What you
mm,
see on Wednesday matinee will be the same as what you see on Friday night opening night. It's going to be
yeah,
exactly the same written show. You're going to see the same thing. So we had to freeze it and had to have four press nights. And then you held the party for the final night. So there were always some critics who were older who said, I'm only coming because there's a party.
yeah,
But others would go, but I have to rush back and write my review. So
yeah.
they always missed the party.
Mm.
But
I
the
mean,
bloggers did not care. The bloggers said, I want a free ticket because I'm going to write about you online.
hmm
And so they started being involved. And that was, oh, I don't know, 20 years ago? That's a long time ago that changed. Now you're right. It's like there are people actually, producers actually saying, I don't know, why do I have to have a party?
yeah. And like I've noticed this too. It's kind of an opening weekend. You open on Thursday and you get the press invite, and there's six other openings on Thursday. And so you might
Mm-hmm.
not be able to go until Friday. You might have to stagger it throughout the weekend.
Right, right.
And that's honestly what I've done. I've been like, I'm so sorry I'm not free on Wednesday. But I am free on Saturday. I'll even go to a matinee. Like, nothing wrong with a matinee, but I just mean like if you're gonna have more sales on the evening show.
Right, right. You want to
Um,
help.
but yeah, it's interesting because you're still dealing with the scarcity of a limited run, in the regional space. It's not running long enough, and so they really need everybody who's gonna say something about it to say something before Monday, because they have to let people know what the critics are saying. And I think it's still interesting that people are motivated by certain things. Like, here in Philadelphia, we've got the Barrymore Awards, and a show that is considered Barrymore eligible. It means that the nominators have come to the show, and enough of them have said there are elements of excellence here that we should take a closer look at. And the community is motivated. Well, some members of the community are motivated by that, but it's always questionable because what about the people who bought tickets in advance? What about
Mm.
the subscribers who already committed to the season? And so there's a question about whether there is true value in that notification, and does it really change anything?
Especially when the people who vote are given free tickets, and that's lost money.
Hmm
And plus it's, no offense, it's kissing butt to a few people. Even if it's 100 people, it's a few people who uh, have to be treated with kit gloves
Mm-hmm.
in order to get, you know I, yeah, if you certainly, the Tony Awards, the same thing of, about, I think it was about 10 years ago, they kicked out a whole bunch of Tony voters from the list because they're just saying, you're not helping us. You're barely showing up. You're sending your niece to
Mm,
see the show because you're too tired and old, or we don't like you anymore. You're not working in the industry anymore. Why are you still on the Tony list?
mm,
So they cut down from what I'm making up numbers here, from like 1,100 to 750. Um, that saves money because every show has to give them the best seats in the house and a pair of them during the month of May when they're voting.
mm.
And that's a lot of money when you add that up,
Yeah.
right? And certainly there's opening night, so people already know whether they think the show's good. So you're right. How much does all of this affect, and who is it affecting? Is it affecting foreign tourists? In New
Hmm.
York, that's really our audience. Philly's different.
Yeah.
See, again, we have different marketing needs,
Hmm.
right? The internet helps because it goes around the world for New York. What good does it do in Philly if you're trying to keep your neighbors in
Yeah.
your theater, right?
Yeah.
Unless they are, big TikTok fans.
And that's why I say there's so many options. Like I can't walk down my street. I'm not convinced that if I walk down my street, I'm gonna get half of these people to come to a show
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not even in a neighborhood that has a theater, and so they're not going to be in the mindset of theater unless they are theater people. And so I can't identify them just by walking past their house. And this is the other thing. It's like, okay, what if you do a mailing, right? You want the people in your general area of your theater to know that you're in the neighborhood and that you've got a show and that, it's available if they want to come be a part of this conversation. But at the same time, you don't know how many of these people are theater people.
That's right. Well,
And
and that's why I am, and I've said this before on our podcast. I'm in the belief that we do theater for theater folk, and
hmm,
that theater folk is a very limited audience,
yeah,
and other people like to be around theater folk, and they'll be dragged with them, or they will be influenced by them.
mhm.
And I don't think we really have much say over the other people. And we just keep spending money on them. And again, this is not Broadway I'm talking about. Broadway is a whole different, as the old term was, kettle of fish. I don't understand why we still say that, but because it's
There's
all
somebody who won't let it die.
it's tourism. I mean, the New Yorkers, we will for a couple of months help buy seats. But the reason why a star in a role sells tickets because the tourists know who that is,
Hmm,
and if they're going to spend a lot of money, they want to at least have an idea they're going to see something they know. When you're in the middle of Philadelphia and you're doing a new show, how does the audience know what they're coming to see? Can they bring their 15-year-old and with whatever personal issues the parents may have with a 15-year-old? Is it going to
yeah.
be stimulating in the right way? Is it going to bore them? Are they going to act up? Is it going to be the wrong language? I mean, we all know what a David Mamet play is like,
Yeah.
but not everyone visiting New York does.
Hmm.
So how do we let them know you better be ready for the F word in every other sentence,
By the
right?
way, you're
That's
you're paying per seat, so it doesn't matter that your kid is 14.
right.
It's still if you want to sit that close, you're all paying
Yeah.
that money. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I
and
know. I it's like I don't know. Like I've definitely said to some friends who didn't understand what I was producing or what I was trying to do, and I would say, well, it's possible that you're just not the audience. And I would say, like, I don't know, that people are motivated by certain things. It's like if one of your colleagues is in a theater, is in a piece of theater, right? They might come to the owners of the company and ask them for some kind of support if they would consider it. But they would only do it because of their relationship with their employee. And they
mhm.
would say like, "Oh, we like them, and sure, we'll go support. Hell, we'll even buy a couple of tickets and go to the show and cheer you on." they might do that, but it's their personal connection that allows them to do that. And so that's why it's so tricky, because there's always this mindset of like, how do we sell them? How do we entice them? Like, I don't know that you can. I think you just put the information out there and let the people who are interested find it. Like, there's nothing I could say to somebody who's outside going like, you can't, there's no way you can get me in here.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, then don't come in. I mean, perhaps you could just not try and they might be interested in you fighting for them or something. I don't know. But the thing is, like, if you want to go, just go. Like, but I know that doesn't help us. It's just, it just
Yeah,
feels like we're overworking to get people who were
I,
not
I, th-
coming
I think you've hit
to
it
try to
right on
come.
the head. I use the phrase, I don't like spinning my wheels,
Yeah.
right? It's either we're getting traction or it doesn't work. That was the what I learned when I was at the public theater, and we had these conferences with other marketing teams at other nonprofits, and we heard about one of them who had the show Beyond Therapy, a comedy from the 80s,
Like
70s, I don't know.
Christopher Durang.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Um, and they they were so proud of the fact that they had gotten a direct mail list of every psychiatrist, psychologist, etc., in all of the New York boroughs,
Yeah.
and they sent out a discount coupon to every one of them directly, and no one came
Hmm.
because, and they were very honest about it. I work at this all day
Yeah.
long. I
They
don't,
don't need to see their life on stage.
right, and I don't care if it's funny. It's not
Hmm.
funny to me. So that's what I call spinning wheels. They went
Mm.
after the list. They had to stuff envelopes in those days. Went out. It's like, just put it out there. This is what it's about. Maybe someone who's having dinner two doors down is interested. Maybe not.
Yeah. I was never a fan of stuffing envelopes. Paper
Well,
cuts.
we didn't have any choice in those days.
I know. It was a whole party. Hey, there's pizza. Yeah, but you got it from that place. No, thank you.
The
Do I look like
subscript,
an intern? No, we love interns.
yay, interns.
Yeah, it's always tricky because like I don't know, I think about my personal artistic pursuits. I'm like I'm happy to see it from idea to presentation, and it will find. I don't know, like I've been producing podcasts for years. Everywhere I go, someone comments about me producing them. But the amount of people who comment about the work I'm doing does not correlate with the amount of downloads each episode receives, you know? And so I don't look at those two to match. It's one of those things. It's like somebody knows you do something, like somebody's not a sports fan, but they know you love sports. If they find out that your team won, they can easily comment to you, "Hey, I heard your team had a good night." You know? It's like people love to be aware of things nowadays. Like if you've ever sent an article to someone and then their response is that, "Yeah, last week or sometime before you, I was talking to someone else about that." Like they just need to point out that they've already been there. It's like, so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people just want to be aware that things are happening, but we're not in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. Um, Everybody doesn't need to be in the room where it happens. They want to be adjacent from the room where it happens.
Well, and it's also, and again, this is a generational thing.
Yeah.
It's also when we had less options, everything was more important.
Hmm.
And now that there are a gazillion options,
Yeah.
yet how do you give something a level of importance? Which is why, I mean, you get a Hamilton, it's unique. So it creates its own buzz. That's the
Mm.
word we use. Will it change? How many lives has it changed? I don't know. But certainly, um, that's such a rarity. And my belief right now as I was talking about how many new shows open in England, is why shouldn't we just be saying, you know what? Maybe we do new shows and give every new show 2 weeks. They may get no audience, but every theater company says we're going to do 20 new shows this year, as opposed to saying we're moving up from 2 to 4. No, let's get massive in our change.
Hmm.
Let's do 20. Don't do them haphazardly. You don't want bad stuff. When if a show is bad, when you read it, it's bad. But if you can find 20 new shows, tell your audience, hey, every time a new movie comes out every weekend, so we have a new show every weekend. You have now the option. And because we don't know if it's a hit or if it's going to be your favorite, we're not going to charge much more than movies anyway. But you get to come
Hmm.
live. And maybe you get to come and we're going to give you free coffee with it because we're bribing you, so that it's not a $20 popcorn at the movie. Now you get to spend $30 on a ticket for a show, and we're going to give you a free cup of coffee. I'm making this up as we go along
Mhm.
here. But we almost have to respond to the stealing of the government's support by going the opposite direction and doing more.
Yeah.
Not just trying to stay solvent. And again, we can't count Broadway. The chances of getting your show to Broadway are the same as a lottery. If you write that great show, somehow it might get there. But right now, we should just be creative and writing and telling stories and using great actors and letting them do their skill set and letting directors do their work and designers and just come in and say, okay, since we're not here long, let's not build a giant castle,
Hmm.
right? Let's just do something that fits within a few $100 and leave it at that. And then move on to the next play.
Yeah.
We and of course, Wisconsin, Indiana, Arizona, these places can all become an alternative to Broadway. Nothing wrong with Broadway. Leave it alone. It seems to be doing fine. They're making lots of money and they're selling lots of tickets. The pandemic has not destroyed Broadway. It's everywhere else. So
Hmm.
let's do more. And let's ask maybe some of those rich investors to donate money because we're doing more.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an idea.
I know, but yeah. And then you get back to how it's hard to ask people for money right now when the stock
That's right.
market is volatile.
Right.
Yeah, it's like you're cutting off one resource and then you're making it harder for the other resources to fill in the gap. They can't.
Yeah. Well, let's and it is. I'm not a praying man, but let's pray that we are not going to be surprised by the depression of 1929,
Yeah.
where people were throwing themselves off buildings. I don't wish that on anyone for any reason. I don't care how rich you are. I don't want you to lose your money. I just think we need to reconceive what purpose it has.
Oh yeah. If you have way more than you need, it's kind of hard to be like, what are you walking around doing? Like I think that's why a lot of people gravitated to the White Lotus as its finale was reached. There's a, I feel like everyone at the White Lotus is very well to do unless you work there. But there were some conversations about whether they could live below their current status, and we're just looking at them like animals in the zoo. We're just observing them. But if you take a second to think about it, like, yeah, I mean, if you if if you grew up low income, right, and now you're middle class, there's a part of you that says, I never want to see myself at low income again. you
Hmm.
know and so the same thing happens when you're up. If you get to upper class, you're like, I
Yep.
never want to be middle or low class again. And so then there becomes this obsession to do whatever you have to do to maintain this status, or at least rise above
And
it.
it's to me, it's one of the exciting things about our industry.
Hmm.
I know that I learned early on that my income was going to go up and down and up and down and up and down.
Mhm.
I'm going to be unemployed for weeks at a time, and then I'm going to be paid a lot of money for a number of weeks, and then the show's going to close early. So I thought I would have income, but now I don't, and it's going to take me a while to get the next job. And I have relatives who had a steady, solid, good income their entire life. The idea of them losing their work or even retiring scares the hell out of them
Mhm.
because they've never had the experience of having to adapt. And I think that's an advantage for us, or for some of us at least. Certainly, actors. I mean, they could have a great year on television and then all of a sudden not work for another year.
Yeah.
You know. On that note,
Yeah. So honestly, our working title is "Wait for It," like with a question mark, because I don't know what we're waiting for. I mean, it also in in these times of uncertainty, it is. I do think art does thrive in times like this, and it seems like the opposite of what should happen, but I think it does. It just fuels people's minds and we get creative and so on. And it always makes it tough too, because if we figure out how to do this, then it's going to be a fight to get more resources because we've done it with less. And I feel like this has always been a conversation. This was a conversation in high school. This was a
yeah,
conversation in college. It's a conversation now, you know? And so it just keeps going. There's always a challenge, but we rise to it. We learn lessons. We're stronger on the other side. And I mean, honestly, that is the business of theater.
preach, Darnell, preach.
That is the business of theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford,
I'm Mitch Weiss.
and we'll see you at the theater.
Bye.
Each episode, because this is